at an individual capacity, it has really picked up. Things have really picked up in the last few years, right? So at an individual capacity, people are aware, right? And they have adopted. COVID has prompted people to think about how to do things differently. The capabilities were there that, so for instance, for Nepal, we were able to import a lot of ideas from other countries, right? So COVID has definitely helped us to push our world into digitization. Whenever we want to launch any product, it has to be approved by all our internal departments, compliance, AML, credit risk, operational risk. We make sure any product that is done is watertight and perfectly suited. We don't make sure, there's no loopholes, right? So that's the reason why sometimes it takes a bit of a time. A lot of other capabilities also, which are state of art, which are globally used and which we have introduced in the country. So some of these capabilities are quite unique in the country. So we have to a large extent, follow the global processes, right? And that we have to do stringently. And so that we use that to make sure, our flows are in line with the global flow, and then to that extent, we take care of the security issues. As of today, Central Bank has not approved any neobanks. That hasn't happened. Extension of digital bank probably can happen soon, because recently there was a monetary policy where it's been mentioned that there will be a framework that will be implemented for the digital bank. Now, what is the outcome will really depend upon what are the guidelines that comes out of it. We are already talking to some of the clients for using DLT for some of the flows, right? But obviously, because it's disruptive, because it's a new flow, it will require socialization or approval from the central bank. And not that today I'll do DLT and everything will happen, right? So it's a very gradual process. It will be very naive to assume that the fintechs or the FIs or the digital companies will behave in a very ethical manner. So it's very important that regulators are able to design that framework so that the innovation happens.
Hello and namaste. I am Sagar Ghimire, senior reporter at New Business Age. I would like to welcome you all to this new episode of New Business Age interview. Today we are discussing about digital banking's opportunities and challenges. To talk on this issue, we have a special guest in our studio. Join me in welcoming Mr. Michael Siddhi, Head of Transaction Banking at Standard Chartered Bank Nepal Limited. Welcome to the show, Mr. Siddhi.
Thanks a lot for giving me this opportunity.
How are you?
I'm good. Doing good. Yeah.
Let me start this conversation by asking you about the awareness level of consumers, Nepali consumers on digital banking. In your views, how aware are Nepali consumers, or how comfortable are Nepali consumers on digital banking and digital banking?
When we talk about digital banking in every geography, not only Nepal, every country, the adoption usually starts at an individual level. Right? So Michael will start first doing transaction through online banking. I will start purchasing through online platform. I will use a lot of online capabilities like Connect IPS, whatever, to fund transfer, all those. And from that perspective, at an individual capacity, it has really picked up. Things have really picked up in the last few years. Right? So at an individual capacity, people are aware, right? And they have adopted. But on the other hand, the same cannot be said of the corporate side. It is improving, things are picking up, but corporates has not picked up as fast as the individuals, which is very natural, which happens in every geography, every economy. One of the key reasons why that has happened is obviously the corporate payment size is larger, right? So the corporates are a little hesitant. The downside of wrong payments are larger. Another reason why corporates are hesitant. And another important factor is the capability we have provided, the banks and FIs have provided to the corporates probably did not suit the corporates organization. See, at an individual capacity, I will send a payment, right? For a corporate, they have their own matrices, a maker, checker. So all these capabilities have to be built in their online banking, the channel that is designed for the corporate. If you offer the same platform for the online banking individual and the corporate, it doesn't work. Right? So that was one of the reasons why things had not picked up. Secondly, a part of it is also because there's a lack of governance and transparency. A lot of corporates still are doing a lot of things manually, putting their accounting in a manual ledger. So to them, it becomes very convenient to push transactions through checks. Right? That's another reason why in the corporate side things have not picked up. And the third probably also is because the channel capability that banks have provided to corporates is So if you allow them to do only one-to-one payment, it doesn't help. You have to provide them capability in terms of efficiency. You have to give them that controls the security without compromising on the security, and then you have to give them the scalability opportunity, right? So if I'm actually a corporate and pushing one payment at a time, doesn't help. I might as well write a check, right? But today things have changed. A lot of FIs, a lot of banks are building up that capability where clients can push payments in bulk, corporates, right? So then the efficiency comes in. Right? So some of these capabilities were lacking earlier. Now this has really picked up. Now, especially in last few years, I must say, NCHL has done a great work, right? Providing electronic check clearing. Now we have fast payment, which is called Connect IPS, fast IPS, RTGS owned by Central Bank. So a lot of capabilities have come in the last few years. So things are picking up. Things are really gathering pace in the corporate side also. Right? But I think there's always a lot that can be done.
Okay. You said that things have improved, or digital banking has picked up in recent years in terms of for at least for retailers side. So COVID-19 has devastated the economies around the world. On the positive note, it has also helped to accelerate the adoption of digital banking. What do you think is the role of COVID-19 in Nepal in digitization, in particular in the banking sector?
So that is a very relevant question. Very relevant because, in fact, when we looked at our banking transaction volume, right, during the COVID period, the electronic volume really picked up. The manual volume actually went down. When you look at the transaction that happened in the branches during the COVID period, it went down. Now again, lately, we see that the manual volumes are picking up again, right, for obvious reasons. But COVID has really helped. COVID has really helped. In fact, if you look at a lot of this development that has happened in the last few years, COVID has prompted. Look at some of the capabilities that banks have given. Like if you look at earlier, banks used to give statements manually, right? People used to go to the bank, collect the statement. Then the client starts saying, listen, we don't want statement in mail, you send us a fax. Then the fax came. Then fax was replaced by online banking. Online banking was replaced by online banking for corporate. Corporate still said, listen, fax is not good, just sending me online is not enough, I need to consume it. Right? So you started saying CSV, Excel format statements. Then it has gone beyond even that. Some of the large corporates are saying, now listen, don't send me Excel, I need statements in the format of MT940. Right? And there's more and more development happening. Now today people are talking about payments, reporting all through API. Now one of the reasons that has happened is because COVID has prompted people to think about how to do things differently, right? Corporate treasurers, if you look at corporate treasurers, are now looking at things differently, right? And now some of the large corporate treasurers have started demanding some of the things like this. I need this, I need that, right? So which has also prompted banks to enhance their capabilities so that you can meet their requirements. So COVID has definitely the capabilities were there that, so for instance, for Nepal, we were able to import a lot of ideas from other countries, right? So COVID has definitely helped us to push our world into digitization.
Okay. Talking about Standard Chartered Bank Nepal Limited, it is often felt that Standard Chartered Bank Nepal Limited is lagging behind its peers when it comes to introduce digital banking services. Do you agree with this? If so, why?
Sagaji, I'm sorry, I don't agree with that. I'll tell you a reason. We deliver our digital value proposition through two channels, straight to bank, which is for the corporates, and online banking channel, which is for the individual customers. Some of the capabilities we have in straight to bank, I'll just give you an example. Today straight to bank has IPS. It's connected to interbank payment system, IPS, Connect IPS, RTGS, right? So you can sit at home and push payments through all these channels. Not all, we were in fact first one to connect with integrated IPS. We were first one to connect with RTGS. Connect IPS, yes, we are a little late in connecting. Why? I'll come back to that. So similarly, we in our S2B, we have trade capabilities, right? So client can sit at home and open LCs, do open guarantees, accept discrepancies. Customers get advised that documents have arrived through trade platform. Not all FIs or banks have this capability, right? And we also have, we can see straight to bank. You can do a client can use straight to bank on a standalone basis, which means I log into straight to bank and push payments. But for corporates who have a lot of high value payments, they may say, listen, I'm not going to push one by one payments, right? So there's what we call quasi host to host, where client can upload the file. Now comes a customer who is even more high tech. He says, listen, I have my own ERP system. I will use my own ERP system to push transactions. I will not use the bank channel. So they will, what we do host to host integrations, right? So he will make the payment, we'll pick up the file, process the payment. So these are some of the capabilities we have. Right? Now we've recently introduced APIs also. Client can use APIs for taking real-time balances, for debit credit notification, for pushing payments, for using MT940, which is a Swift standard statement, which clients use for purpose of reconciliation, right? That's sort of really advanced. So these are some of the capabilities we have in straight to bank. Now, if you look at our online banking, which is meant for the individuals, right? It has all the, you can do IPS payments, you can do connect IPS, you can, change the PIN, your credit card pins, FD opening, all these capabilities are available, right? Yes, the only reason why we are told we are probably behind, and optically it looks like that, is because we were not connected to connect IPS, which is the fast payment switch. It took so much time. The reason is because our internal processes are, we have, whenever we want to launch any product, it has to be approved by all our internal departments, compliance, AML, credit risk, operational risk. We make sure any product that is done is watertight and perfectly suited. We don't make sure, there's no loopholes, right? So that's the reason why sometimes it takes a bit of a time. But having said that, we have some lot of other capabilities also, which are state of art, which are globally used, and which we have introduced in the country. So some of these capabilities are quite unique in the country.
Okay, digitization is all about convenience, but there are also concerns about risk coming with this digitization. You briefly talked about the compliance. So with growing competition to introduce digital facilities or digital banking features and services, there are also concerns about safety and security. People are worried whether banks are undermining or are ignoring the cyber threats. So in Standard Chartered Bank Nepal Limited, what are the measures that you take to minimize or mitigate these kinds of risk?
Yeah. As I said earlier, one of the reasons we take a long time is because we have our compliance process that we are very stringent, right? And that's why we take time. I'll give you an example. Today, Connect IPS, which is your fast switch, processes payments only up to, I think, 2 million rupees, right? 2 million, yeah. And some of the government payments, if you send it through Connect IPS, 2 million doesn't go through that channel because that's a switch level. So if our internal process doesn't allow us to convert it into IPS, right? So our internal process is stringent. So the moment it's not allowed, we'll have to find another route, right? So approved route, right? So that's why we take a long time. That's why we are very we comply to the requirements, our global requirements. You can't tamper with clients' messages. That provision should not be given to anyone, right? If a client sends a payment, that's it. Don't tamper with it, right? So these are very stringent rules that we follow. And as I said earlier, our subject matter comes from globally. They come, our compliance guys, everyone gets involved. Our technology guys, technology has to approve it. So we are on the product side. Yeah? We design the product, we put up the user cases, and we get the testing done. We do the project, the product feasibility. That's one. But the technology guys are somewhere behind working on it, right? They will not allow me to compromise on the flows. They are separate vertical, right? If they say this is how it has to be done, that's how it has to be. They will not allow me to change. Maybe the requirements could be different from the local perspective, but if they feel this is how globally things are supposed to be done, they'll stick to it. Right? One. Secondly, that I must also say is straight to bank or online banking for us is today's straight to bank, which is our corporate channel, electronic channel, is not only used by our corporates in Nepal, it's used by our corporates globally. Right? So you could have a multinational sitting in Nepal or Dubai or Singapore. If you log into straight to bank, it's the same platform. So goes for online banking also. So I could be sitting in Nepal doing my individual transactions, or I could be sitting in Singapore doing my online transaction. The platform has the same real feel as in Nepal or Singapore, wherever you log in. Yes, locally we would have fitted in to flow to plug into the local payment flows, but the look and feel would be same, right? So we have to a large extent follow the global processes, right? And that we have to do stringently. And so that we use that to make sure our flows are in line with the global flow, and then to that extent we take care of the security issues.
Okay, and let's talk about the future of digital banking. So what is the vision that Standard Chartered Bank Nepal Limited thinks about when it comes about the digital banking future or the digital banking presence?
Sure. See, digitization is a core part of our business strategy, and which actually underlines our commitment to our shareholders, our customers, that we will give you the best digital experience. Right? So our digital capabilities are divided into, we deliver our digital capabilities through two channels. One is straight to bank, one is online banking. We have invested a lot in both of these capabilities. Let's talk about first straight to bank. We have recently invested in what we call SCPay. It's our internal payment processing engine. Right? SCPay is not only used in Nepal, it's used all across the world. It's what we call ISO 222 enabled, cloud enabled sort of a payment engine. We have recently invested in that. We've recently invested in our messaging system. We have recently replaced our earlier messaging system by what we call AMH, Alliance Messaging Hub. Right? All these are done to make sure we are enabled for the future perspective. Our straight to bank, which we have now called it straight to bank next gen, is enabled with a lot of high-end capabilities like data analytics. All those are all designed so that we meet the customer requirements. In the online banking space also, today we are connected to Connect IPS everything, and practically you don't have to come to the branch to do the transaction. Your PIN change, your individual requirements, fund transfer, wallet unloading, account opening through Nagarik app. All this we have done this, right? Now the future, how does the future look at? This is what we have done in the past. Future, we are, Standard Chartered has a lot of API capabilities across the world. Right? So today we have only introduced 3-4 API capabilities in Nepal. The reason is not everyone consumes API to the extent, not corporates are reached to the level that they will use all the APIs. If there's a demand, if there's a requirement, we can actually bring some of these APIs which will help our corporates, our organization to bring efficiency, scalability in their processes. Right? Those things we can do. In trade, for example, today I said we can do trade through S2B. Right? You can open LCs, you can do open guarantees, you can do accept discrepancies. Now we are trying to bring more capabilities in trade. We are we call it digital trade counter, because not everything can flow through end-to-end flow. So we are introducing what we call digital trade counter. That we are working on. APIs we are working on. One piece, and again, I would like to say why. I told you about why it took us time to connect to Connect IPS. Today we are not connected to QR, right? But the exercise is on. Right? We are now doing necessary. Soon we will have QR payment and collection capabilities also.
Okay, so do you think that Nepal will have a future, fully digital future, or virtual neobanks here in Nepal, or how far is that reality? In terms of retail banking, can you think a future where we don't have like a brick and mortar banking here in Nepal? So how far-fetched it is?
See, digital bank, neo-bank, virtual bank are terms which are used interchangeably and mutually, which is probably not entirely true. No, but you must also understand these terms are evolving. Right? I mean, few years ago we had not even heard of the term called neobank. Right? Today we are talking about neobank. The way I understand is digital bank is an extension of an existing bank. So one of the local bank in Nepal can say, listen, I will provide you digital bank capability. So it will be a separate setup, but traditionally they will still be an existing bank. Neobank is completely new setup. Right? So it's a new setup which falls under new regulations. So as of today, Central Bank has not approved any neobanks. That hasn't happened. Extension of digital bank probably can happen soon, because recently there was a monetary policy where it's been mentioned that there will be a framework that will be implemented for the digital bank. Now, what is the outcome will really depend upon what are the guidelines that comes out of it. Right? So, depending upon the guidelines, digital bank, neobank can happen. But having said that, I think neobank will take time in Nepal. I don't think central bank will so immediately give an approval for neobank, because if you look at India, right, they even generally we learn from what we do in India, right? Even India, they have not given a full license for a neobank. Whatever neobank is operating is in partnership with a traditional bank. So neobank will offer the retail capabilities, the solution to the clients who can do the retail transactions. But from the regulatory perspective, you will still have the traditional bank. So that piece could happen very soon, right? That piece, the digital bank, from that perspective, can happen soon, probably few years. But neobank as such, I think will take some time.
Okay, so digital banking experience is still an evolving. It still is evolving. So based on your experience, a decade-long experience in this sector, what are the challenges do you see in digital banking of Nepal?
In banking space today, the area where there's a lot of changes happening, where things are evolving faster, is the digital banking, which is a part of a transaction banking, right? Be it in cash or be it in trade. So a lot of changes are happening. The biggest challenge for traditional banks would be, so what has happened is, so with a lot of these changes, you have a lot of these fintechs coming in. Fintechs are more agile, right? Because of their flat organization structure, because they are a new company, they can do a lot of things where the traditional bank cannot do that. Right? So now traditional bank has their own regulations, they have own legacy system, they have their flows which they have to stick to. So that's why traditional banks will never be as agile as the fintechs. But what banks have also realized is, listen, banks are not in a process of creating an ecosystem. So they have worked with the fintechs in terms of rolling out a lot of products, capabilities. That has happened, right? So the challenge for the banks is to really be able to have that agility, so that that can be you can be fast in the market. So that's one challenge. The second challenge I see is things are changing really fast. For example, today we are hearing some sound bites on decentralized distributed ledger technology, right? That is not really used, but another few years that will also be used in bank. In fact, banks will be the first one who will use distributed ledger technology, so-called blockchain, right? So we are already, in fact, coming back to your earlier point of what Standard Chartered has a vision. We are already talking to some of the clients for using DLT for some of the flows, right? But obviously, because it's disruptive, because it's a new flow, it will require socialization or approval from the central bank. And not that today I'll do DLT and everything will happen, right? So it's a very gradual process. So the challenge is, and DLT is a new technology for all of us, right? So challenge really is, things are moving so fast, we got to understand it, understand the use case, and then see how best it fits for the clients. So that is a challenge.
Okay, talking about the government's role, you briefly talked about the monetary policy, some of the provisions that was introduced in the monetary policy. Sure. So how supportive the government or the regulator, Nepal Rashtra Bank, is in terms of promoting digital banking and accelerating the adoption of digital banking in Nepal?
No, I think the central bank has been very supportive. If you look at it, RTGS, the switch is owned by central bank, right? They took the initiative to say, listen, we got to do RTGS. So as far as your question is concerned, whether they are supportive, they've been really supportive. I know they understand that digital banking is something that has to be adopted. There's no choice, because the manual pieces, manually the transactions that you're done can be quite expensive compared to digital flows. So they have taken the right steps. They have been supportive in terms of making sure these digital pieces fall in the places. But I think there's more improvement that can be done, obviously. Okay. There's a lot that can be done. Okay,
we are almost at the end of the show. Anything that you would like to add on that you haven't covered during this hour?
Now, since you asked about how supportive the central bank has been, there's one piece I would like to really cover is the changes in the banking, the technology, the landscape is so fast. It's not only Nepal, in every country, every geography, every economy, the regulators are always behind, because the technology development becomes very fast, and it will be very naive to assume that the fintechs or the FIs or the digital companies will behave in a very ethical manner. So it's very important that regulators are able to design that framework so that the innovation happens, so that we are so that innovation happens, and the organization able to support the trade and commerce. Right? I'll give an example. One of the reasons we took some time to connect to QR flow was because the QR flow had started much earlier, right? QR payments and collection, but we did not take any step until the central bank came out with a QR regulation. That was in probably 2021, right? So once central bank introduced the QR framework, now we are working on it to plug into QR flows. To that extent, we are late, but it's always important that for innovation to take place, the regulatory framework, if this will be very helpful. For example, another example, distributed ledger technology. Sooner or later it will come. Another few years, in fact, 3-4 years, it will definitely come, and most likely the digital ledger technology, what we call blockchain, can impact any industry. It's not only banking, right? But my feel is that banking will be the first one who will adopt this. Right? So the framework has to be ready so that the innovation takes place, so that it will support the trade and commerce of the country.
Okay. This concludes this interview. Thank you, Mr. Siddhi, for your time and insight.
Thank you, Sagarji, for letting me put some of my thoughts. It's all in my head, so it's an opportunity for me to share with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.